Layla Hassan and Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum were supposed to begin a life of luxury and power, but what started as a glamorous wedding quickly turned into a deadly nightmare that would shock Dubai and the world. Layla Hassan had always lived a life marked by quiet struggle. Her family, once moderately comfortable, had fallen into financial hardship over the years, and every day seemed like a battle to make ends meet. Layla, a young woman of just 24, carried the weight of her family's expectations on her shoulders. She had dreams of independence, of building a life on her own terms. But in the world she lived in, such ambitions were often overshadowed by financial necessity and societal pressure. When news arrived that Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum, a powerful and influential figure in Dubai, had expressed interest in marrying her, Layla's heart wavered between hope and fear. The Sheikh was known not only for his immense wealth, but also for his reputation as a man who commanded absolute control over every aspect of his life. The prospect of marrying him seemed like a chance to escape the harsh realities of her current existence, but it also carried an ominous undertone that made her uneasy. Her family, desperate for financial security, embraced the proposal with open arms. Lavish preparations began immediately. The wedding was to be a spectacle of luxury, golden invitations, designer dresses, and a venue so grand it seemed to touch the clouds. Every detail was meticulously planned, from the crystal chandeliers to the towering floral arrangements, all intended to display wealth and status to the gathered guests. Layla watched as her family's excitement grew, unable to shake the feeling that she was being swept along by a current too strong to resist. She felt both anxious and trapped, as though the life she had once imagined was slipping further away with each passing day. Beneath the glittering surface, a hidden tension lingered, a quiet sense of unease that something far darker than opulence awaited her on the horizon. The lavish proposal, meant to be a celebration, carried the weight of secrets she had yet to uncover, secrets that would soon turn her world upside down. Days before the wedding, Layla Hassan stumbled upon a secret that shattered the fragile sense of hope she had clung to. While organizing some wedding documents in her parents' home, she discovered a series of hidden contracts and bank statements that revealed the horrifying truth. Her family had been paid 3 million dirhams to secure the marriage with Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum. The realization hit her like a lightning strike, leaving her stunned and trembling. The life she had imagined, the promise of security and luxury, had been sold to the highest bidder without her knowledge or consent. The discovery filled her with a mixture of disbelief, rage, and profound betrayal. Her parents, whom she had trusted implicitly, had turned her existence into a commodity, trading her future for wealth and social standing. As she stared at the figures on the paper, the luxurious wedding that had once seemed like a dream suddenly transformed into a grotesque arrangement. Every glittering decoration, every extravagant gift, every designer dress, everything had been orchestrated not for her happiness, but as part of a cold, calculated transaction. Her family's smiles and excitement now felt like cruel mockery, and the lavish hotel suite and golden jewelry became symbols of her entrapment rather than celebration. The enormity of the betrayal ignited a dark, dangerous clarity in Layla's mind. In those tense hours before the wedding, Layla's thoughts shifted from despair to planning. The rage within her simmered, sharp and focused. She realized that if she did nothing, her life would be dictated by a man who saw her as nothing more than a trophy, while her own family had handed her over for a price. Every moment became a turning point, every decision a step toward reclaiming control over her destiny. The revelation of her family's greed and the cold, transactional nature of her marriage lit a fire within her, a fire that would soon drive her to make a choice with irreversible cons. The wedding day arrived in a blaze of luxury and spectacle. Layla Hassan, dressed in a gown of shimmering gold and ivory, moved through a world that seemed both dazzling and suffocating. Guests arrived from across the globe, their faces bright with excitement, oblivious to the storm of emotions raging within her. The halls of the palace glittered under the light of massive crystal chandeliers, while gold and marble stretched as far as the eye could see. Every corner of the venue screamed wealth and power. So much so that Layla felt as if she were walking through a living dream she had never asked for. Cameras flashed constantly, capturing every angle of her appearance, the intricate embroidery of her dress, the sparkling jewels that adorned her wrists and neck. Yet beneath the spectacle, a quiet unease gnawed at her, a reminder of the secret that weighed heavily on her heart. Her family beamed with pride, their excitement almost theatrical in its intensity. To them, this night was the pinnacle of success, a moment to showcase their family's upward mobility. But Layla could see the cracks behind their smiles, the unspoken fear of consequences hidden beneath their celebratory facade. Every step she took down the aisle, every bow and wave, felt like a performance designed for an audience she no longer wished to impress. The grandeur around her was a stark contrast to the reality she now faced. She was not a bride entering a loving marriage, but a young woman trapped in a meticulously crafted arrangement, her freedom bartered away without consent. As the night progressed, the ceremony concluded, and the couple was escorted to the private suite prepared for their wedding night. The opulent room, with its silk drapes, golden fixtures, and elaborate floral arrangements, seemed more like a gilded cage than a place of celebration. Layla's pulse quickened as she stepped inside, acutely aware of the power imbalance that awaited her. Every glittering detail, the towering bed. Alone in the suite, Layla Hassan felt the weight of reality pressing down on her. The grandeur of the room, the silk drapes, golden accents, and towering floral arrangements, suddenly seemed suffocating, a prison built from wealth and status. The revelation that her life had been sold for 3 million dirhams replayed endlessly in her mind, each thought fueling a growing storm of anger and betrayal. She realized that the lavish gifts, the designer dresses, and the glittering jewelry were all meaningless, carefully designed distractions meant to mask the truth of her situation. Fear surged through her, but beneath it, a darker emotion began to take root, a determination to reclaim control over a life that had been stolen from her. Every detail of the suite became a symbol of the trap she had fallen into. The heavy, gold-plated furniture, the crystal chandeliers, and even the delicate porcelain vases, all served as reminders of the opulence that had been used to manipulate her. In the quiet of the room, Layla began to plan. She understood that the Sheikh, confident in his wealth and authority, would never expect resistance from a young bride. The thought of turning the tables filled her with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Hours passed as she meticulously considered every possible move, calculating risks and imagining outcomes. The anger that had consumed her initially transformed into a cold, methodical clarity. She knew that if she did nothing, her entire future would be dictated by a man who saw her only as a possession and by a family that had traded her for money. Survival demanded action, and the time to act was quickly approaching. Each moment alone in the suite sharpened her resolve. The life she had once envisioned, the freedom, the autonomy, the dignity, now seemed attainable only through decisive, extreme measures. The night stretched on, and with every passing second, Layla's mind hardened, preparing her for the confrontation that would change. When Sheikh Rashid entered the suite, he carried the air of confidence that had defined him all his life. Wealth, power, and influence had made him believe that no one could ever challenge him, especially not a young bride. Layla Hassan stood firm, her mind razor-sharp and her body tense with anticipation. The moment had arrived, the confrontation she had planned for hours now unavoidable. Every step the Sheikh took across the marble floor seemed to echo her heartbeat, a rhythm of fear and determination intertwined. She had realized that words alone could never convey the depth of her betrayal, and that the luxury surrounding them could not protect him from what was coming. The initial confrontation escalated quickly. The room, adorned with fragile crystal chandeliers, gold-plated furniture, and delicate vases, became a chaotic arena. Adrenaline coursed through Layla's veins, heightening her senses and sharpening her reflexes. She moved with precision, guided by months of suppressed anger and the urgent need to reclaim control. Every struggle, every push and maneuver was a battle for survival, a test of her courage against the imposing figure before her. The opulent objects around them, once symbols of wealth and status, became unwitting instruments in a deadly contest. Minutes felt like hours as the power dynamic shifted violently. Sheikh Rashid, used to commanding obedience, was caught off guard by Layla's ferocity. The glimmering chandelier above seemed to sway ominously, and the heavy curtains and golden decor became both obstacles and weapons in the struggle. Sweat and adrenaline mingled, and in a shocking turn, Layla gained the upper hand. The man who had once seemed untouchable now lay overpowered, vulnerable, and at her mercy. The room, once a sanctuary of luxury, had transformed into a grim theater of consequence, where betrayal, rage, and retribution collided in a brutal climax that would leave no part of Layla's life unchanged. The suite fell into an eerie silence once the struggle ended. Layla Hassan stood, her chest heaving, as she took in the scene around her. The opulence that had once seemed so dazzling now appeared grotesque and suffocating. Crystal chandeliers dangled precariously, golden furniture was scratched and toppled, and delicate vases lay shattered across the floor. The luxurious surroundings, which had symbolized wealth and power, had become the backdrop for a life-altering act. Sheikh Rashid lay motionless. The man whose wealth and influence had dictated the course of her existence rendered powerless by her own hands. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but Layla forced herself to focus. Every decision now carried immense consequences, and she knew that one mistake could ruin everything. Carefully, she moved through the room, erasing signs of the struggle and attempting to restore an appearance of order. It was a meticulous process, requiring patience, composure, and an unyielding resolve. Her thoughts raced as she considered what would happen once the authorities discovered the truth. She understood that the world outside this suite would never see her as a victim. They would see only the shocking act, not the betrayal that had led her there. As the adrenaline slowly ebbed, Layla realized the enormity of what she had done. She had taken a life, overturned a power structure that had seemed untouchable, and set in motion consequences that could reach far beyond the walls of the palace. Yet within her, a fierce sense of freedom began to bloom. For the first time, she felt in control of her own fate. Outside, Dubai's skyline sparkled, oblivious to the deadly drama that had unfolded in one of its tallest towers. The city continued its life of luxury and spectacle, unaware that a young bride had rewritten her destiny with a single, irrevocable choice. In that quiet, tense moment, Layla understood that her life would never be the same, and that survival would demand cunning. News of Sheikh Rashid's sudden death spread like wildfire across Dubai, igniting shock and disbelief throughout the city. The media buzzed with speculation, and authorities launched a massive investigation into the circumstances surrounding his demise. The palace was sealed off, and investigators scoured every inch of the suite, searching for clues that might explain how a man of such immense wealth and power could have been overpowered so suddenly. Suspicion ran rampant, but the evidence was scarce. There were no signs of forced entry, no witnesses to the struggle, and nothing that immediately pointed to foul play. The case became a puzzle that left even seasoned detectives baffled. Layla's family faced a storm of conflicting emotions. Grief, fear, and guilt collided as they struggled to process the death of the man they had once celebrated. The truth of their role in arranging the marriage remained hidden, a dangerous secret that could destroy them if revealed. They maintained appearances in public, attending press conferences and mourning the Sheikh, but behind closed doors, tension and anxiety gnawed at them. Layla's revelation of their betrayal, though private, weighed heavily on her conscience. Every movement, every phone call, and every news report became a potential threat. She had changed the course of events forever, but the danger of discovery loomed over her like a shadow. Rumors swirled across Dubai and beyond, blending speculation with sensationalism. Some whispered of political intrigue, others of a personal vendetta, but no one suspected that the young bride at the center of the wedding was the orchestrator of the deadly turn of events. Layla remained hidden, moving cautiously, observing the fallout from the shadows. The city continued its glittering rhythm, oblivious to the life and death struggle that had played out in one of its most opulent towers. With each passing day, the investigation deepened, but the young bride's careful planning and Layla Hassan vanished without a trace, slipping out of Dubai under the cover of carefully orchestrated plans and forged documents. Every step of her escape had been calculated, drawing on contacts she had quietly cultivated over years of hardship and necessity. She moved through airports and border crossings with a calm precision that belied the storm of emotions within her. Dubai's towering skyline, once a symbol of her entrapment and betrayal, faded behind her as she crossed into anonymity. The life she had been sold into, the wealth, the status, the gilded cage, was now nothing more than a memory, replaced by the terrifying freedom of an uncertain future. As she settled in a distant city under a new identity, Layla reflected on the events that had brought her here. The betrayal by her family, the cold transaction that had turned her life into a commodity, and the confrontation with Sheikh Rashid, all of it weighed heavily on her conscience. Yet alongside the weight of her actions came a fierce sense of liberation. For the first time, she was the master of her own destiny, responsible only for the choices she made and the life she would now build. The adrenaline of the past weeks slowly gave way to a quiet clarity, and she realized that survival required both caution and cunning. Though her freedom came at a staggering cost, Layla felt a grim satisfaction in the knowledge that she had reclaimed control over her life. The story of the bride who killed a sheikh for discovering she had been sold became a legend whispered across continents, sensationalized in the press and online forums alike. Layla remained unseen, a shadow moving through a new city, always vigilant but finally in command of her fate. The world around her would never fully understand the depth of the betrayal or the intensity of the determination that had driven her. In the end, she had survived, not as a victim, but as a testament to courage, intelligence, and the terrifying consequences of uncheck.